Africa, a continent rich not only in vibrant cultures and stunning landscapes, but also in opportunities and untapped potential. As the youngest continent, with a rapidly growing population and abundant natural resources, Africa is steadily transforming into a key player on the global stage. This transformation has attracted great attention and investment from countries around the world, especially China, which has recognized Africa's development potential and has made substantial investments in cooperation in the region for decades. In northeastern Africa, an ambitious project is attracting global attention: the African oil pipeline project that China has taken over for $800 million. This 1,450-kilometer pipeline is not just an infrastructure construction, it is a game-changing project that has the potential to completely change the economic landscape of two African countries. Today, we'll take a closer look at this massive crude oil pipeline project and its profound implications for the future of both countries. Before getting into the topic, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the Asia Rising Star channel, which will ensure that you don't miss any of our exciting content. Let's get started now. The East African Crude Oil Pipeline Project, with a total length of 1,445 kilometers, is an important project connecting the crude oil resources of Uganda and Tanzania. The ambitious project has the joint investment and participation of 4 countries, including the governments of Uganda, Tanzania, French oil giant Total, and China National Offshore Oil Corporation. In this cooperation, France's Total is the largest shareholder, holding 72% of the shares, while China National Offshore Oil Corporation holds 8% of the shares. Originally, this pipeline project was one of the key development projects of the French company Total. However, during implementation, the project encountered a series of challenges. Total, in particular, faced strong opposition from environmentalists in France while advancing the project. These environmentalists strongly questioned the project, believing that it would cause serious damage to the ecosystem of Uganda's Lake Albert region and have a negative impact on local flora and fauna and even human life. This also reveals a problem. Western companies often fail to fully consider the importance of environmental protection in oil development in Africa. Faced with such pressure from public opinion, Total had to invest a large amount of money to deal with these negative impacts, which directly resulted in severe compression of the project's profit margins. Finally, Total announced that it had decided to withdraw from the East African Crude Oil Pipeline project due to insufficient interest. But for both countries, Uganda and Tanzania, the pipeline project is not only about economic development, but also an important way to create jobs. In order to better obtain the support of Chinese enterprises, Uganda and Tanzania officials have also officially joined China's One Belt, One Road initiative to deepen their cooperative relations with China. Against this background, Chinese companies took over all the projects after Total's withdrawal and regarded the East African Crude Oil Pipeline project as a key project of the One Belt, One Road initiative to ensure that more resources can be allocated to fully promote the development of the project. Currently, the construction of the East African Crude Oil Pipeline is still in progress. Among them, 80% of the pipeline is in Tanzania. Since Tanzania and China have a relatively good cooperative relationship, the construction of this part of the pipeline project has also been relatively smooth. Based on the current completion rate, it is expected to be fully completed in 2025. Once completed, up to 230,000 barrels of oil per day will be transported from the shores of Lake Albert in western Uganda to the Indian Ocean port in northeastern Tanzania. The Ugandan government hopes the project will turn it into a major global oil producer and create more than 60,000 jobs. This would generate net income of $1.5 billion to $3.5 billion per year for Uganda and $1 billion per year for Tanzania. There is no doubt that this will be a successful energy pipeline project. For Uganda and Tanzania, The East African Crude Oil Pipeline Project is an important national development opportunity. Although Africa has abundant natural resources and huge development potential, African countries have been lacking the technology and talent to develop these resources. China's support and participation have changed their development environment. As the world's largest oil importer and energy consumer, China's net crude oil imports reached 560 million tons in 2019, accounting for 47% of the world's total imports. This high dependence on imports makes Uganda and Tanzania also important partners for China's oil imports. Therefore, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline is an important tool for Uganda and Tanzania to obtain oil revenue. However, this energy project has been highly controversial by Western environmentalists. Western environmentalist organizations believe that Uganda's oil extraction will lead to large amounts of carbon emissions, which seriously violates the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement and poses a threat to global climate security. But in fact, these Western companies are among the world's largest carbon emitters, but they require African countries to sacrifice their own economic development in order to reduce carbon emissions. But what they don't know is that although Africa accounts for only 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions, EU countries contribute 17% of global carbon emissions. This may disappoint these environmentalists. In fact, the African continent has the right to use its vast fossil fuel resources to drive economic development, just as Western developed countries have done for hundreds of years. Not only that, African countries have shown outstanding performance in the use of renewable energy. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, Uganda and Tanzania generate 92% and 84% of their energy respectively from renewable resources, compared with only 22% in EU countries. The contrast highlights African countries' efforts in environmental protection and sustainable development, in stark contrast to Western countries. Considering the development needs of developing and poor countries, we cannot ignore the importance of global environmental justice and equal rights. Therefore, the strong voice behind this support for Africa's economic development not only involves the debate on resource utilization, but also touches on deeper issues of global environmental justice. In this context, the so-called reasons put forward by Western environmentalist institutions look more like excuses and cover-ups. Their real purpose is more to maintain control and exploitation of Africa while limiting China's growing influence in Africa. Although Western companies have chosen to withdraw from energy development projects in Africa, China has chosen continued cooperation and support. I think this is the real effort needed to support the development of those backward countries. Because China firmly believes that only when a country's overall development is improved can it truly be able to innovate and practice environmental protection.